This is the RPM Podcast, starring Eric Brennan,
What a cheap, lying, no good, rotten, four-flushing, low-life, snake-licking, dirt-eating, inbred, overstuffed, ignorant, blood-sucking, dog-kissing, brainless, dickless, hopeless, heartless, fat-ass, bug-eyed, stiff-legged, spotty-lipped, worm-headed sack of monkey shit he is!
Sam Ballard Jr.,
Call me Sam. What's the matter? Haven't you ever seen a talking snowman before?
Neil Rutt III,
Who am I? The name's Yukon Cornelius, the greatest prospector in the North.
and Josh Matthews.
Shitter was full!
All right, here we are again. The RPM Podcast. January 7th, 2020 at 8:39 p.m. on a Tuesday night. We've been gone for about 3 or 4 weeks, but obviously didn't give Josh enough time to make a new intro. That intro is about 3 years old, but thanks for trying, Josh.
Yeah, you're right. I'm
Scott Riggleman down in Manchester, New Jersey at my Edge of Divorce Motorsports studio. My brother Tim Riggleman's up in Farmingdale, New Jersey. Tim, how are you?
I'm good, ready to go. Thank you.
Tim, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. I know you've been real busy going for interviews and applying for the job to be the new driver of the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile driving across country. We wish you luck getting that job.
Thanks.
Did you guys see that on Facebook? That they're looking for a new driver?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
What was the name they were calling it?
You're a hot
Yeah.
dogger.
Hot dog.
If you're the driver of the Wienermobile, you're called the hot dogger. They're looking for a new hot dogger. It's a pretty good job. It's exactly 1 year, and you literally drive that thing cross country and back. They give you different routes to drive it across country, and they give you a bunch of T-shirts and flyers and stuff like to hand out at rest areas and stuff. I hope you get it, Tim. I really do. That's a perfect job for you.
Scott.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Scott, I got to pick your brain because you seem pretty knowledgeable on this. What kind of power plant's in that thing?
I didn't read that far. I really don't know. Maybe we can research that a little bit while the show's going on. It's got to be built on some type of chassis, right? You know.
Yeah, I don't think
sure
it's
chassis or,
custom beyond the fiberglass. You know.
yeah, there's got to be something pretty basic underneath it. And I know you sit kind of high up, so I'm thinking like a motorhome or truck or something.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, a motorhome chassis would be, or like a rack body chassis, something like that.
Yeah. All right, and we got our birthday boy down in Waretown, New Jersey, Josh Matthews. Happy birthday! How are you?
Thank you. Getting old.
Getting old.
Yeah, the millennial that's 36 years old. Yep.
No Carvel ice cream cake tonight for your birthday.
We did cake early. Bryce picked out an Oreo ice cream cake.
Oreo.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was very, very soft, and it wasn't too solid. Where you have to like struggle to bite through it. It was perfect. So
I remember being a kid, and whenever you always get invited to these birthday parties, and I remember how depressing it was when you showed up at a kid's birthday party and they had a regular cake.
Oh, especially in the summer. Oh,
Yeah,
like
just a regular. I got to the point where I didn't even like a piece of cake itself in the ice cream cake. Like, don't even have a layer of cake in the ice cream cake. Just do away with the cake altogether.
Ice cream is fine by itself as an ice cream cake. You don't need anything else. I mean, I'll let you have those chocolate crumble bits in
I love
between the layers.
They're my favorite. They look like chocolate cover ants or something, like the crunchies.
Yeah, like the cookie bits or whatever it is.
Have a layer of that and not a layer of cake in the ice cream cake. Then I also remember too, the parents used to try to pull it off. They would bake a cake. You had your cake, and instead to make up for it not being an ice cream cake, they'd give you a scoop of ice cream.
That doesn't cut it.
Cake
No.
and a scoop of ice cream. You gotta have an ice cream cake at a birthday party.
So let's
If
see.
you got young kids, just remember that birthday parties equals ice cream cake.
So let's see. We're what, 2 minutes into the first podcast of 2020, and we're already on food.
Talk about hot dog.
We've been going a while. We just want to catch up a little bit on some of the NASCAR silly season, you might say, to what's going on. One guy that's been racing a lot lately and hasn't slowed down one bit is Kyle Larson. He's been all over with his little dirt sprint car. He was even down in Australia racing.
They're not that little.
Fortunately, he flipped down there. It was a pretty good tumble too. And
What
they
wasn't
said he
it?
was,
Him and somebody else? They both flipped.
yeah, Christopher Bell was down there racing too, and he flipped. He actually um, loaded up and went home. I don't know if that was the only car they had down there and it was hurt too bad, or if he just said, I can't get hurt down here, and flew back home. I know for a little while people were blaming his NASCAR team for saying, no, you're not allowed to race anymore. But he nipped that in the bud and said, no, I left it on my own. My team didn't say anything. I could have stayed and raced. I just decided to come home. I don't know if he came home because the car was wrecked too bad, or if he came home because he was a little sore from the flip itself. Kyle Larson stayed and raced. He also came back to America and raced some more, and he's got a bunch of wins already. And it was revealed in one of his victory lane photos. He had a big black eye from the flip. So that was pretty funny that he had a big black eye. So this goes shows you,
Sorry,
no sprint cars.
Wasn't sure you were going to say I for a second.
Why's that?
Never mind. I'll let you figure it out.
But yeah. So yeah, he's back racing with a black eye, and it's not slowing him down one bit. He's still winning races. The last time we talked to you guys, we talked about Cole Pern suddenly leaving Joe Gibbs Racing, and I did get a text message the next day from Candlewood Rob. He listens to our podcast, and he wanted me to know that he watched the awards banquet. And he said one of the crazy things at the awards banquet was when they showed in Martin Truex's speech, Martin said, "Oh, I wish my guys were here." His team wasn't even at the banquet with him. And when they scanned at Martin Truex's table, it was basically just Martin and his girlfriend sitting at the table. There was no team members there. So that kind of even made the story a little more weird why Cole just packed up and left.
Wow.
But they, Martin Jr. did put out a tweet, and he was a picture of him and Cole Pern together. And Martin was wishing Cole the very best in his next adventure. And his next adventure is kind of cool. He bought a
no
ski
pun
lodge.
intended.
Yeah, kind of cold actually. He bought a ski lodge up in Canada, so he can't get no further away from NASCAR than that. It. I read first of all, the place is beautiful. I looked it up on the computer, and it's absolutely beautiful. Beautiful ski lodge, mountains. There's also hunting and fishing there for the summer months when there is no snow on the ground. There's hiking, cross country skiing, snowmobiling. He said him and his family have been vacationing there for a long time. So, it's almost like he worked in NASCAR long enough to make him enough money to buy this vacation resort that he loves. And that's what he's doing now. He bought that vacation place, and him and his family are running that now. And he's running a ski resort now. He owns it with his family.
So that's going to be his retirement investment property, I guess?
That's kind of his full-time gig now. It sounds like he moved there. He's living there, and he's running the place, him and his family. So, I mean, how many times have, we been away on vacation, and when you're there, you're like, man, I'd love to buy and own this place. And fortunate enough for him, he's able to do it. So he did it. He bought it, and that's what he's doing now. And he's pretty far away from Charlotte, North Carolina now. So I think he's gone for a while.
I think that was British Columbia, I think it said in the article.
Yeah, Canada always confuses me. I never know what side of the country that is. If it's, above the west coast of America or above the east coast of America, I never know.
Which province is it in?
Yeah, that always confuses me. Even when I'm looking at faraway racetracks to go race at. One little dream of mine, I'm trying to race in every state on the East Coast, which I pretty much got covered now. I still haven't hit Georgia, and but I sooner or later I'd like to do a race in Canada. I really would like to try that. I've been looking at some racetracks up that way, and sometimes I just Google pure stocks or factory stocks or enduro racing in Canada, and something cool will come up, and then it's all the west.
It's like
coast
Vancouver all the way west.
Yeah, over, But there is some cool tracks right in Nova Scotia, which isn't too much further north than Maine. You go through Maine, and then you're in that part of the Canada.
Well, I think in Canada they, I know they do it with like quads and ATVs and stuff with the studded tires, where they race on like lakes and ice rinks. And stuff.
I'm not really looking for a snow race. I would do something in the spring or summer up that way.
If it was spring, you might still have snow.
Yeah, that's true. There's a track called Peterborough, which really isn't that far. it's like north of Syracuse up that way. It's only like 7 or 8 hours. I just don't know what happens when you cross the border with a race car. I've heard horror stories, and then some people tell me it's no big deal. Some people tell me you have to have a list of everything you have in your truck and trailer. Like if you got 2 cans of brake clean, you gotta have a list that says, I have 2 cans of brake clean, or I have 8 tires. They want to make sure you're not taking race car parts into Canada and selling them. So when you come back, even if you use those 2 cans of brake clean, they
You can't
better
throw
still
them
be.
out. You have to have the empty cans there.
Yeah, I just don't see how they can check every race car trailer that goes across the border. But if you're that random one they pick, you better be ready for it.
I think a lot of it depends on, time of day, which border patrol agent you get, and
Right.
all that stuff. What kind of a day he had.
Tim, didn't the modified tour race in Canada a couple of years back?
Yeah, I opted not to go to that.
Did you hear any stories like that of the teams crossing the border having trouble?
I heard, there was. I think one of the things where they wanted to, you couldn't tell them you made any money, like for purse.
Oh, really?
They wanted to take taxes out of it right there. And the same thing, the fuel was something to do with the fuel was a big deal. Like you can't take fuel across the line.
Well, yeah, because we complain about fuel prices down here, but from when I stay down at Fort Wilderness, there's a lot of people from Canada that camp down at Disney by us, and we got to know a couple of Canadian families, and they love the fact that the gas is cheap in America. We're like, cheap? They're like, yeah, it's like twice as much in Canada than what it is in America. So we actually got it pretty good with our gas prices compared to them.
Yeah, you didn't hear anything, if you ever been arrested, you can't go across the border. Yeah, any kind of traffic violations, they can tell you can't go across. It's not so much going across; it's getting back in. You got to worry about.
Okay.
Like supposedly they let you go. You can come. They let you come in, no problem. It's when you leave.
Okay.
It's a problem, but I don't know. I didn't go.
You know what, Scott? I'm going to talk to Lisa because her best friend's husband is a border patrol agent. He worked, or they lived in a place called Jackman, Maine. He was at the Canadian border for years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I can maybe find out some more details or whatever. I can't guarantee it's perfectly up to date, but I might be able to give you an idea of what they're looking for. I think he works at Newark now. He's still an border patrol agent, but he does like custom stuff in Newark.
Oh, okay.
So I think he's in like the express lane.
Picture this poor guy sitting at this little toll booth on the border of Canada and Maine in the freezing cold with a big hat on and drinking hot chocolate, and like one car passes by every hour and he's got to check it. You know what I'm saying?
It's like the border patrol and spies like us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I'll say this much: from where they lived, it was like 2 hours to the nearest Walmart or to a hospital from their house. I mean, they were in the middle of nowhere, and you do not have a vehicle without four-wheel drive up there.
Oh, I know. I mean, we're going to get to my little story later in the show, but I've seen parts. I drove through parts like that. I'm like, oh, my God, man, if I break down here, I'm screwed. You know? But we'll get that to a little bit later.
You know, Scott, you got to bring a satellite phone with you. Cell phones aren't going to cut it.
I tell you what, we'll get to my story a little bit later, but my cell phone service is pretty good. Cell phone service is definitely getting better now. Even back in the day, 15 years ago before I started the towing business, when I was a truck driver, when I go up that way, your cell phone was useless. Now you go up there and they got better service up there now. That's starting to work better up that way.
Well, as long as you don't have Boost or T-Mobile, you should be fine.
All right, so we wish Cole Pern good on his new adventure. We're going to miss him in NASCAR land. And like I said, too, before we left, usually what happens in a situation like this is the car chief or the head engineer moves up, and that's exactly what happened here. I think the head engineer that was working underneath Cole Pern became Martin Truex Jr.'s crew chief now. Josh, we always talk about like certain things in racing that are going to go away, and we always talk about the flagger might be one of them because with all the radio technology and lights and all that stuff, you really don't need a flagger anymore.
I agree.
Do you think that maybe the crew chief might be a position that goes away in NASCAR and it just turns into the head engineer?
Well, here's the I think it's going to come down to what responsibilities. I mean, because you always think the crew chief. I mean, I know he does. A crew chief will do a lot during the week and prepping for the
Yeah,
track and looking at stats or whatever. But you think of them as on the top of the box, making the calls like a coach. Um, but a chief engineer is, you know, I would imagine, at least in my feeble little brain, is more car oriented than exactly the situation on the track. He's more about how do we get the most out of this car, whether it be grip or or anything, versus all right, do we pit or not under this yellow? Are they going to come in? Whereas the play calling the plays, I think is the crew chief. So I think it, and we've talked about this before. I think it's doable over the phone. In reality, with all the technology we have, they wouldn't need to physically be there. Um, that's why we joke about. It's just them being suspended. Like, oh, we'll just send them a text and tell them to pit, or how many tires to take.
See, this is my thinking too, because I mean, back in the day, the crew chief, you were right, Josh, did more work than just call pit strategy and choose what shocks and springs were on the car. I mean, you're right. They used to do everything. They used to hire and fire crew guys. They used to book hotel rooms. They would make all the travel plans. But now they have team managers doing that.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? So it's like the crew chief job is getting smaller because they don't have to cover as much as they used to. They have other people helping them.
And I think that makes it easier to fire them too.
What's that?
I think it makes them more expendable too,
Right,
because if they have a
that's what I'm saying.
smaller.
The crew chief job is kind of shrunk down a little bit because they have team managers now, they have crew coaches now, they have head engineers now helping set the car up. So it's kind of a weird situation. I think Dale Jr. even said within the next few years you might not have crew chiefs anymore.
I don't know. I don't see that specific scenario happening, but I see it becoming more like a football kind of environment where if you lose a race, they could be like, well, no, it's the crew chief's fault. We're going to fire him and get somebody else because it's easier
right.
to change them out.
Football, I mean, the head coach used to take care of everything, and now there's a defensive coach, and an offensive coach, and a lines coach, and a quarterback coach. So you're right. They might stick around. Another thing Dale Jr. is saying, he'd like to see the crew chief leave the pit box. He thinks the crew chief should be in the grandstands or in the spotters tower or in one of the suites, and he could actually see and call the race better from that side of the track than from sitting on the pit box.
I mean, it's a different perspective. I mean, I just pictured him trying to blend in, sitting there drinking a beer, but I think you have too much information available with all the screens and like all the computers in the pit box. I think that's too valuable to leave. I mean, you could probably get half of that on your phone.
You could set that same stuff up across on the other side of the track too. Have a suite set up for crew chiefs. How they have a spotter stand. Have a crew chief stand or a crew chief suite or something like that.
Maybe
Dale Jr. was just saying, since he's been out of the race car seat and he's been in the broadcast booth, he thinks he knows so much. He can see and tell so much more from being on the other side of the track than on the infield side of the track. And he thinks that the crew chief should be watching it from over there and not from the pit box anymore.
I think his view is maybe a little skewed. I understand what he's saying, but he's also in this broadcast environment where you have, I mean, think of the production team and the stuff that's probably going over their headset because they all have earpieces and so somebody might be calling out, oh, there's a wreck in 4, and if the announcers, the commentators are talking about, I don't know why this fender's different. Oh, trouble and they can get a heads up. There's so much more going on, and they have all these stats and all these comparisons that are live and going out because of what the company is broadcasting and trying to produce for TV. I think in a way they're just like any sport, they can review the TV broadcast to see how to improve their team and their game. Uh, I think teams are using the NASCAR or the TV broadcast to look at stuff, even find debris or find who was at fault for something.
It's funny you say that, Josh, because when you go to these cup races, you see the teams watching the jumbotron behind them the whole time.
Yeah,
and then like you said, if the driver calls in, hey, I think I have right front fender damage or something, they're all staring at the TV,
waiting for the
TV shows it. Yeah. All right, well, that's something. Yeah, that's just something that I was thinking about with Cole Pern leaving, if the crew chief position itself is going away.
No, it's a great thought experiment. I just don't personally see it happening right now. I could be wrong, but I don't. That's what the whole point of this podcast is, spitballing.
All right, since we're on crew chiefs, Cole Pern left his team. Penske's doing something a little. I've seen this happen before in NASCAR. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. He's not getting rid of his crew chiefs. He's not getting rid of any drivers. He's just switching them up a little bit. He's pairing their drivers with, like Joey Logano's crew chief is going to be with, say, Brett Keselowski now. And Brett Keselowski's crew chief is going to be with Joey Logano now. They're just switching them up a little bit. I know there's 3 over there. Ryan Blaney's over there too. They're mixing them up. They're switching crew chiefs, so we'll see how that works out for them.
It's going to be a deal between. It's not just who's the smarter or better crew chief. The chemistry has a lot to do with it. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, even if the driver is a perfect, company man that listens to whatever he's told, the chemistry will still matter. So if they get along or don't, I mean, that will affect their season.
I was a little shocked about this because Brett Keselowski and his crew chiefs been together a long time, even from the Xfinity days, and they won championships together. Same with Joey Logano. I mean, they just won the championship not too long ago at all together. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I don't know. It's a bold move. They're definitely mixing it up, but if it doesn't work, they can always switch back too, right? I guess,
Still, yeah. It's not that you didn't fire anybody. I mean, they're all still company property.
It's almost like they're wearing a different color T-shirt. All right, and Bubba Wallace gets a new crew chief. I don't know who his crew chief was. I don't know who his new crew chief is, but he did get a new crew chief. I don't know why his crew chief left or what happened there, but they didn't really run that good last year, so they got to try some stuff. And he got a new crew chief too. I don't know.
Do you think that do you think that Bubba has the talent there that a new crew chief might turn things around?
I definitely think. You know what? I'm gonna write this down in your little notes there. Oh. I predict Bubba Wallace is going to have a win this year.
Okay.
I think it's going to be one of those surprise wins. It's either going to be a super speedway win because I mean, he just finished second in the Daytona 500 not too long ago. I think he finished third at Indy one time last year. It's either going to be one of those super speedway wins that he wins. He gets in the right draft. Maybe a lot of good cars got wrecked out. He misses a big one. Next thing you know, he wins. You know what I'm saying?
Or a fuel mileage.
Yeah, I was going right to the fuel mileage thing. It could be a race like Michigan,
okay,
where they can, because he's not always up in the points, so he can gamble a little bit when it comes to fuel mileage and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a bold prediction: 2020, Bubba Wallace and Richard Petty Motorsports is going to have a big underdog win somewhere.
Okay, I mean it's, I'm not even going to say it's that bold. I mean it's totally possible.
Yeah.
It's not what I would have expected, but it's absolutely possible. So, yeah, let's put it down. Bubba Wallace is going to get a win in 2020.
Tim, I seen you just got up, but I just made a bold prediction that Bubba Wallace is going to get a win in 2020. I said it's going to be something, crazy like a super speedway win where a lot of people wreck out and he's in the right place and he gets a win, or like a fuel mileage race at like Michigan.
Yeah, I heard you. I didn't take my headset off.
Okay.
Yeah, anything's possible.
All right, so that's all we got for NASCAR now. I mean, we're getting close to the Daytona 500 coming up here in a little while, so I'm sure there's going to be more news coming our way.
Oh, yeah, definitely stuff is going to be changing. I mean, let's see. It's January 7th. We have, a little over a month till Daytona?
Right.
We have the Rolex 24 at Daytona coming up. I know it's not Cup, but, I mean, it's still going to be at Daytona. We got to talk to Jeff Lane because we're probably going to do another live show at the River Rock, which I'm excited for already. So Yeah. This winter off season is going by way too fast.
It seems like the off seasons get shorter and shorter every year, don't they?
Says the guy who raced this weekend.
I got to race in February. If I race in February, I raced in all 12 months this year.
Oh my god. Do you need a ride for? Is it Trenton?
Um, Xfinity and the Truck Series came out with something a little crazy today. I kind of like it. I kind of don't like it. They're going to not all the races, but the races where they're not at the racetrack with the cups, where it's not a cup companion race. They're going with no live pit stops. They're getting rid of the live pit stops. So basically, if the yellow comes out and you guys pit and you're third, you're coming back out third. I guess the less people stay out on the track. I guess you can't lose spots on pit road. But if people stay out on the track, you pit, you got to line up behind them,
I think
But
my
you
dad
can't
said
lose.
supposedly if you do a green flag pit stop, you get penalized 2 laps. I think that's what it was. Which I'll need to. I don't know. Which I mean, you're going to be penalizing yourself anyway by pitting under green. But with the stages, I don't know. I mean,
So basically, the stages are turning into pit stop breaks now. They're
Yeah.
going to bring everybody down at this when the stage is over. They're going to bring them down, and if you're seventh, you come back out seventh. I mean, it's going to save the team's money, but on the other hand, it's going to pit crew guys are going to lose their jobs now too.
well, I guess the lower tier pit crew guys would lose their jobs is
Yeah.
really the correct way to say it, because the whole point is that when the same guys would be working for the same team but not the same car for a full weekend, let's take Kyle Busch, or something, you know, uh,
And another rule they're having too is you're only allowed to bring 8 guys to the racetrack, which I don't know how they're going to police that, but yeah, you're only allowed 8 people there working on your team for that weekend.
I see where it would save money. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely save money. Definitely. It's funny. Back in the day, I was sitting around with Kevin Ayers one time and we were talking about how they could save cost in NASCAR. He said at the cup level, what they should do is each team can only show up with a dually and a 30-foot enclosed trailer, and whatever you can fit in that trailer, people wise and equipment wise, that's what you got to race with for the weekend. And I kind of laughed at that, but it's kind of like that's almost what they're doing now. You know what I'm saying? They're saying you can only bring 8 people, and yeah, they're trying to make they're trying to save teams money.
Yeah, it's a valiant effort. I don't think ultimately it's gonna make a ginormous impact. But if people get used to it, right now everybody's gonna complain. Everybody's gonna say, "Oh, you're hurting what the sport is, and you're taking away the old school NASCAR." But try
They
it.
are They are taking away one part element of excitement out of NASCAR race because it used to be fun watching them come down pit road and see who can beat who off.
All right, Scott. Do you enjoy the modified tour races?
Yeah.
And when they pit, they don't want people screwing around the pits too much. They still come back on the track in the same order they went in, right?
Yeah. I mean, some races they do. Some races they can only change one tire at a time, and they got to drive back around the track and change the other tire.
All right, that's a little stupid, but I think if you pit and you come back on the track at Wall, they did it that way, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have a small pit area, and it was a safety concern,
Yeah.
and that's why they did it, and nobody complained about it.
Right.
Nobody complained because it was for safety. So, and it still was an exciting race. I mean, people complain about other things, sure, but why not give this a try? If we're willing to watch other races where this is essentially the same setup,
Yeah, but I've been to Lake Dover, and when the yellow flag comes out, and you've been sitting there for a while, and you haven't seen much passing in a while, it gets excited when they come down pit road, and you want to see if Kevin Harvick beats Kyle Busch off of pit road, and now you're not going to see that in the Xfinity Series side of it.
Okay, valid point. I'll give you that. We'll see where it goes, and if it ends up being cost savings, then significant cost savings, then maybe it'll stick around. Maybe it's just a try. I mean, that's why it's the lower series. It's a trial. If it fails, then they'll undo it. I mean, that's the beauty of being able to change rules.
It's just funny. Like I know it's on the pit side and not on the grandstand side, but one of the problems in NASCAR right now is the decline in attendance, and NASCAR's taking it a step further by saying, "All right, you can't bring 14 people anymore. You can only bring 8. So let's have less people at the racetrack."
That's fair. Um, I don't. Do you think it's really gonna? Speaking of that, do you think that's gonna deter people from going to a race?
Yeah.
I didn't think so. So I don't know. It's gonna be. It's an interesting development. I didn't expect it, but
It's not the question of it's going to make more people stay home. It should be the question of is it going to bring more people to the track? They're trying to get more people in, not more people out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
right.
I don't think any more people are going to come because
No,
of it.
I think you would actually turn more people away than
You would
you
lose more.
attract.
You're going to lose more than you gain more.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
at the end of the day, it all comes down to money. It's to save the
It saves the team's
cars
money, but
money.
at the end of the day, the person that pays the $100 to sit and watch a race is seeing one less exciting thing happen during that race, which is a live pit stop.
Right. Well, it'll make it
All right,
easier for.
moving on to Indy cars now. You had Josh. You got to do this. I haven't been following the Indy car stuff. It's a revised red flag rule. What do you want
Okay.
to talk about this?
So now I'm gonna tell you my bias first. I think it's a bad move. Um, so now I'll tell you what it is. And I'll use Pocono as the example. When I was at Pocono, well, let's say honestly, the past 2 years, they had some major red flags.
Okay.
Um, and they had to repair the catch fence and all that. And last year, or this past year, Ryan Hunter Ray and I believe it was Rossi, or I forget who else, had damage, significant damage to the car, but it wasn't totaled. So the crews elected, or the teams elected to work on the cars under the red flag, which you're not supposed to do. But they said, we'll take the penalty for that, but we'll get our cars back on the track.
Right.
So it was a minimum 2 lap penalty, and anything further was at the official's discretion. I think they both ended up getting penalized 10 laps. And I don't think they ended up finishing the race, but they did get some laps in, and they tried their best. Now, you're talking about a series that has low car counts to begin with, low fan counts to begin with, and you're going to further. Basically, the rule change says if you work on a car under red, you're immediately disqualified. You're done. You don't come back on
Yeah.
the track at all.
I agree with Josh. I don't like that rule because if there's in Indy cars, we've seen a wreck where it can wipe out half the field, and if that wreck happens on lap one, now you're down from 22 cars down to 11 cars on a 2.5 mile track like Pocono. The people in the grandstands are watching 11 cars go around a 2.5 mile track.
Yeah.
I
So
think they should have a rule like if there's a red flag within the first 5 laps of the race, you're allowed to repair the car and get it back out on the track, just to have cars out on the track for the race. Anything after 5 laps, then you're on your own. You know what I'm saying? Like if you wreck bad, you're out. You know what I'm saying? Because at Pocono race, you're talking about the accident happened on the first or second lap. You know?
Yeah.
So I wanted to see them repair the cars just so you had car count out on the track. I was wishing they wouldn't penalize them at all. Kind of like that All-Star race one time at Charlotte when it started raining. They all went down in the corner and the whole field wrecked, and everybody's car wrecked. And they actually let them bring out backup cars.
Yeah.
Because they needed to put on a show. So I think if there's a bad wreck within the first 5 laps and it wipes out like more than 5 to 10 cars, they should be able to repair those cars without.
Yeah, without or have them start at the back just like you would with the yellow or something.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely have to start at the rear of the field. But then after 5 laps, if something happens, and then you're a victim of circumstances, it's not your day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
now NASCAR doesn't need that because they start 40 cars. So if you lose 10 cars, you still have 30 cars. But when you're only starting 22 cars and you lose 10 cars, there's not enough cars on the track to put on a 500-mile race up.
Exactly. That's why I think IndyCar shooting themselves in the foot, as they're known to do, by just you're going the complete opposite direction of what you need to for this. And how much they penalize those cars with the 10 laps when look, they're trying to get their cars back out there to help with the show.
Right, exactly.
I mean, yes, there are points involved and they have other incentives, but I want to see more cars on the track.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah,
But
you
then
get.
again, I've raced for points a lot, and I've been in point situation, and I also see them from the competitor standpoint. Say if I'm second in points and the guy first in points wrecks on the first lap, I want him out of the race because now today's my day to gain the points, and now you're letting him back out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if it's that's why I said within the first 5 laps, and if there's more than like, you gotta have a ratio. 25% of the field wrecks, they're allowed to fix their car and come back out for the fans. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it would have been better if they didn't do anything like this, but this rule change is definitely in the wrong direction. Um, and I think you'll be hard pressed to find many people that would disagree with me on that. Um, I'm sure somebody out there because they obviously made this change, but it seems so anti-competition, anti everything to do with racing. I don't know. It's frustrating. It angers me, and it makes it hard to still support the series when they do so many stupid things.
I almost wonder if Penske suffered a little bit from that call at Pocono, like if it hurt him in the points or something like that. Now he owns the series, and he's like, "I'm getting rid of that. That hurt me last year at Pocono." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right. We got a text message from our buddy Eric Brennan. He was pretty upset about the news of Bob Varsha having prostate cancer.
Yeah. Apparently, it's a pretty aggressive form of it. So we it doesn't mean that the outlook is incredibly bleak, but he's definitely sidelined for I think it was a year or two. He or no, I believe it was. They said the earliest that he could possibly expect to return to any type of announcing or anything would be June of this year, and for something that would hopefully be kind of a surgery and some uh, chemo and other treatment and stuff. And trust me, been there. I know it's not easy. Um, Granted, I didn't have prostate cancer. It's just it's going to be a tough journey, and it actually um, it sucks and it bothers me and it upsets me, especially because I swear Bob Varsha cannot catch a break. He's probably one of outside of Mike Emmerich. Uh, I'd say Bob Varsha is one of my favorite announcers, and uh, he was kind of shoved to the side, it seems, in a bunch of different things. Occasionally, you'll hear him with Formula E, but not really anymore.
Well, this is probably why. I mean, he was probably not shoved to the side by choice of anybody. He just probably wasn't able to do it.
Well, it seems over the past few years, even before this came out.
A little private text message. I'd like your response to that because Eric did mention that. He said, lately Bob hasn't been doing as much and he's been pushed to the side a little bit. And Josh responded, if you mean like the last 10 years as lately, yeah, I agree with that.
Prove me wrong. I mean,
yeah, now he has been taking a back seat to a lot of stuff and he hasn't been around. And I just think it's because of his health. I don't think it's because of his talent,
Yeah. I don't know. I get my conspiracy theory on this is that for some reason or another, other people don't enjoy working with him, and
really?
I can't figure out why personally. I think maybe he's a little bit more like me, which is why Eric Brennan doesn't like to work with me.
We haven't heard Sam Ballard in like a year.
Yeah. I think I know. I fully admit that I can be a little more crude with humor and other things like that. And I know a lot of people want a more squeaky clean image, and I think Bob Varsha is not crude by any means, but uh, maybe biased, maybe shows more emotion than others. as opposed to just announcing and being and getting really excited when something happens. Um, I think he actually takes it down to more of a fans level in a way, and maybe other people view it as unprofessional or something. I don't know. Maybe he's a total jerk, behind the scenes. I don't know, but uh, I like his work. I like his opinions on stuff, even if I don't always agree. It's still good to hear, and I just feel like he's been getting the short end of the stick on a lot of things, and is getting fewer and fewer opportunities. So I mean, uh, I don't know. Maybe we'll hear him announcing at Wall next year.
All right, Bob Marshall, we wish you well. We hope you get healthy, and we hope you're back working soon. All right, we're moving on to the local section now. Indoor racing. Indoor racing is in full swing. They started out this weekend in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I was away racing in Maine, so I didn't go. But my wife Nancy did go out to Allentown. She said it was a pretty good show. She said she liked the facility itself. It's called the PPL Center. I
Okay.
think that's Pennsylvania Power and Light, I think. She said it was nice. She said the track was good. The racing was good. Friday, I watched some videos of Friday. There wasn't many people in the grandstands on Friday, but there never usually is.
Never are.
Yeah, they're never. Even Atlantic City gets a low crowd on Friday. It's just like basically the heat races and qualifying, and then they have a smaller feature at that night. But I tell you what, I watched the videos on Saturday. It looked like they had a great crowd there.
Yeah, was
Nancy
good.
said the crowd was good. The racing's I
The
love
racing's
all
what
sorts
it
of
is.
racing, and
Yeah.
I don't hate indoor racing, but I also don't love indoor racing. They go one or two laps, hop a wheel, someone wrecks, yellow flag, line them up, go a lap or two, hop a wheel, yeah, over and over.
Do you have top 10s for those, Josh?
No, I don't because I'm not sure where to look. Sam, Sam.
Facebook Indoor Racing Series.
Okay. Maybe I should let Tim read it because
I, I don't have a. I'm not smart enough to have a.
Well, while Josh is looking at that, I just want to state the obvious. On Friday night, Tim's buddy, the fire starter Eric Rudolph, won on Friday night. Anthony Cecily and Ryan Flores, who's been on our show quite a bit, both flipped in the same wreck. They both rolled over. That was on Friday, but Ryan was able to fix his car for Saturday, and Ryan came back and won on Saturday after he rolled the car on Friday. So that's pretty cool that he was able to get the car repaired, and not only repaired, but to a point where it was fast enough to win. So that's pretty cool that he was able to do that. Yeah, and he had a left rear flat the last few laps of that race, and he was able to win with a left rear flat.
Yeah, that race. I don't know. They're a little. I watched both nights. I have to thank Lisa Hartwig. I watched her live feed on Friday, and then on Saturday I watched Ronnie Mullins live feed to see the races. I thought the race on Friday was a little bit more exciting than the race on Saturday. I mean, besides Ryan passing Andy J for the lead, I don't think anybody else passed anybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Eric Rudolph had to start in the back. He made his way up to about fifth, and then somebody spun out in front of him, and they put him to the rear, and he started to work his way back up again, and something broke. But there wasn't a lot of passing that I saw on Saturday.
It seems like indoor racing is starting to lose a little bit of its luster too. We're not getting as many big names as we were getting for a while. It's like Jimmy Bloat's not doing it anymore. We're losing guys like him.
Yeah, you don't have the. It used to be almost like an IROC series. You'd have,
Right.
Billy Pouch and,
Yeah,
course,
we're not really
Kate
getting anybody from the dirt anymore.
Yeah, Roman Pennick and.
Yeah, we're not getting as many modified tour guys as we used to either. Like Rowan Pennick, Andrew Krause hasn't been doing it anymore.
Justin wasn't there, I don't think.
Oh, Justin Bonsignor wasn't there
Yeah,
either.
I don't. If he was, he didn't qualify. I don't think he was. So we have to say Timmy Salamino took a hard hit.
Oh yeah, Timmy Salamino wrecked pretty bad on Friday. He wrecked on the Friday portion of the indoor racing.
Yeah.
Josh, you have the results?
I have
Hopefully
the TQ midget results right here. It took me a little while to find it through the page. Anyway, Ryan Flores, we mentioned, getting the win. Steve Kemery in second. Jeremy, oh boy, Hodricourt, uh, Anthony Payne, Ryan Bartlett, Briggs Danner, Matt Janish, Earl Pauls, Michael Barnes, and Tim Buckwalter. So a few names I
Saturday.
didn't reckon. Yeah, that was.
That's what we were just talking about. The names aren't
Yeah.
the stellar names of the past. But then again, as we get older, the names that we're used to aren't the names that are up there anymore either.
Right.
You know.
Do you have the slingshot results, Josh?
I'm looking. Let's see. Dylan Hotch is the slingshot winner. Looking for results or full results, and he got the hard charger award, but they don't want to
Must have
give me
talked about
full results.
Hmm.
Because like the factory stocks, they get shuffled to the back. And
I tell you what, I like the slingshots in the
they're
indoor
the
racing.
best.
Dale car for the indoor racing. It's like watching a little dirt modified race out there, you know.
Because they beat and bang the crap out of each other.
Back when they first started doing those, they had the good names in them, like Jeff Hetzler, and they all raced in the slingshots.
Was
really?
And then yeah.
Well, even now, I mean, at least in Atlantic City, you see Neil Rutt. I think Vern has been in the slingshots for a while. I don't know if he was there last year. I can't recall. Who am I forgetting? The street.
Nick Shaw also.
Nick Shaw. That's where I was going. Yeah.
Nick Shaw. This is actually the first time he said in 8 years he's been doing it. He didn't make it to the A Maine. He didn't qualify.
He always has a really good car, and then he gets caught up in some dumb thing, which that's part of it. Like I mean,
everybody does. Which everybody does, you know.
Yeah. There was I think there's a lot of really cool names in the slingshots. I don't know if Brian O'Shea's going to do it this year.
Tyler Truex races them all the time too. I don't think he qualified either.
I think was it Ryan? Was it Tyler Truex or? There was a story about one of them from last year about staying out way too late the previous night, being hungover as hell, and still like getting like third or fifth place in the feature, which was pretty amazing. But yeah, I would if I had a choice, I would do the slingshots, of course, because they're the closest things to having fenders. But yeah, they're so much fun. I mean, that is the feature that I go to watch. And honestly, the champ carts aren't bad either. But
I tell you what, the champ carts get around there pretty good.
They're quick.
They're going around there fast.
But you got to have that thing dialed in. And
yeah.
if you're too big, you ain't making it. I know. I like Hartwig's a big boy, and he was having trouble with the champ carts just weight wise. He was big. The slingshots are a little bit better. I think they're a little more equal. And the TQs are just way too expensive. And then actually, I was working with a guy from. He was one of the equipment operators at Kylie, and he ran. I think he ran a TQ for a while, and then he switched to a 600cc micro sprint, and was still running the indoors with them.
You talking about the Chicken Hawk?
That's Matt Remick.
Matt
Matt
Remick.
Remick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't.
That's the Chicken Hawk boy.
I didn't know that was his name. I just knew Matt Remick. I did not see him in Atlantic City last year. What's that?
No, I haven't seen him in a couple of years.
Yeah, me and Timmy grew up with Matt. Matt bought really beautiful stuff to do the indoor racing, and he hasn't raced in the last couple of years. But yeah, he was one of those guys that was the only time he raced. He raced the indoor races instead of racing in the summer. He chose to race the indoor stuff.
That was a lot of money and a lot of nice equipment to only race once or twice a year.
Yeah. But sometimes that's the only time they have. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, He works in construction. He's probably busy all summer. In the winter, he's probably not as busy because the ground's frozen. So he had a little chance to go racing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I remember he switched from a TQ, I think it was, to the micro sprint right like weeks before Wall announced that they were moving to the inside inner oval.
Yeah, and not only that, the reason he did that is because Cecily was winning with that 600 so much. So everybody thought the 600 was the way to go over to TQ. Then they changed the rules in the indoor race, and so the TQ was competitive with the 600. So it was a little bit of bad timing, you know?
Yeah. Um, but there are definitely a lot of good people down there. And I'll tell you, the one really fun thing is that on track party in Atlantic City when you get your feet or your shoes ripped off of your feet.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I tell you what, it's indoor racing. It's not the best type of racing in the world, but it is something to do in the wintertime. And on top of that, Lenny Salmons and his family put on a great show. They turn it into a show. They really do. It almost feels like you're at a monster truck show. You know, they're shooting
Yeah.
T-shirts into the grandstands. Like you said, they have the on-track party where you can go and get autographs and all that stuff, just like they do at a monster truck show. Nancy said when the A Maine drivers came out, they came out to a song. They picked a song and they walked out to a song like they do at Bristol and stuff like that.
yeah.
They always have a little bit of, you know, sparklers shooting off, and Lenny Salmons puts on a great show.
No, yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Scott.
Unfortunately, the day after Allentown, we woke up to some bad news that TJ, who is an official down at Bridgeport who also works the indoor shows, he worked the indoor show at Allentown all weekend. He even stayed late on Saturday to help take the track down and pack everything up. Went home, went to sleep, and he unfortunately never woke up. His roommate found him deceased in his bed on Sunday morning. I never met TJ all the times I was racing down in Bridgeport because I was usually there on a Friday night racing on the quarter mile. And he was also the flagger at ATCO for the quarter midget kids that raced on Friday night. So he would be over there. The only time he would be at Bridgeport on a Friday night is if the quarter midgets got rained out at ATCO and Bridgeport raced. He would shoot over to Bridgeport to help out. But Danny, the official also down at Bridgeport, he posted a really nice, Danny Serrano posted a real nice thing on Facebook, pretty much summing up TJ and his life and his dedication to motorsports. And he wasn't that old of a guy, and he's truly going to be missed by the Bridgeport people and the indoor racing people. And
I was going to say,
people at
a
Echo.
lot of people on Facebook. I never met the guy, but a lot of people on Facebook. You know, he had an impression on a lot of people. So
Yeah.
he's going to be missed.
Yeah, I know a lot of times. I mean, everybody knows the drivers, but not as many people know the officials. I mean, unless they're total jerks or something. And there were a lot of really nice things being said about TJ from drivers, from other officials. It just, I mean, it's a tragedy. It really is. I don't know what else to say about it. I didn't get to meet him, but the dedication was there and admirable, and it just sucks for the racing family, especially the New Jersey racing family.
All right, so rest in peace, TJ. We're sorry that you're gone. We're moving on to Mahoney Valley. They released their 2020 schedule. I don't have the schedule in front of me. Just a couple highlights I want to point out on it. One cool thing they're doing, they're calling it like Legends Nights of Racing, Legend Racing, or something like that. But they're doing the amount of laps in like 5 or 6 different races as car numbers to famous people that have raced there. So say if they did this at Wall Stadium, they might have a 99 lapper, and then they're calling it the Jamie Tomano race, because Jamie's car was 99s. So they're doing that. They have 5 or 6 races where they're having 60 lap races or 66 lap races, and they're named after former race car drivers at the tracks, former champions, stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool. They got a pretty packed schedule on there. And the highlight of the schedule, what I thought was pretty cool, was the last race of the year. They're bringing the ROC Modified Tour back. And what makes this race so special is it's the last race for the ROC Modified Tour. So their championship is coming down to a race at Mahoney Valley. That'd be like the NASCAR Winston Cup race, NASCAR Cup Series race coming down to points race coming down to, say, a race like Bristol or Martinsville. It's going to be the smallest, shortest track on there.
I would say not just that, but also a track that not everybody's been to.
Yeah, a lot of them have raced it. I mean, Earl Pauls, he runs Mahoney and he runs the ROC Tour. I mean, Matt Hirschman only lives right down the street from Mahoney Valley. He's got experience there. I don't think that's really going to play into it as much as it's such a small track,
Right.
It's definitely be like the Cup guys settling their championship at Bristol. So that seemed pretty exciting to me. I also like that the ROC is willing to come down out of New York State and drop down into Pennsylvania, because maybe a guy like my brother can bring his girls to go see an ROC race, or Josh can make it up to see an ROC race, because now you don't have to venture all the way up to upstate New York. It's only a couple hours from us to go to Pennsylvania. So they're hitting a new territory, which I like. I like that they're leaving the New York State a little bit and coming down into Pennsylvania and putting on a show for the fans in this part of the country as well. So yeah, I think that's really cool that they're moving to Mahoney Valley. And it was a pretty good, well-kept secret. I heard no buzz about it or rumors about it or anything. It just came out, and it's pretty cool. They did race there a few years back, but it's been a few years, and it's good to see the ROC Modified Tour returning to Mahoney Valley. A little bit of bad news came out of Connecticut, which I don't know. This is really going to be bad, is Thompson. Thompson's going down to a 6-race schedule for their regular racing touring series, not the touring series, their regular series at the track. They're going to 6 races. And on top of that, they're decreasing the purses. And I'm not talking they're decreasing the purses a little bit. They're decreasing them a lot. I'm talking like 75% decrease in purse. And they're not even paying the full field back anymore. They're only paying like the top 10 now. So if you finish 12th or 13th, they're leaving without nothing. Then on top of that, I heard basically the guy that runs Thompson said, listen, I'm setting up a deadline. I want to hear back from the teams who's going to support this new purse structure and this 6-race deal. And if I don't get enough response back, we're not going to race at all. So, I don't know. It's kind of a bad deal up there.
Ever since they redid the road course, it's always been well, it's like anything else. Don Honing's, I don't know how old he is, but he's old. His kids don't want to race the racetrack. They want to do the road course. They don't really care about the oval. This isn't a bombshell. I've been hearing this.
No, this has been coming for a while.
Yeah, this has been coming, and it finally came, and the kids don't care about the oval. They'd rather road course race. And
you know what it comes down to, Tim? I mean, you called this as soon as they did the road course up there. These road course guys will come and pay $200 to drive on the race on the road course and leave with a ribbon. It's like the total opposite of having oval track racing. So it's 2 different types of racing going on. So like Tim says, they're making money off the road course. So they're trying to pretty much turn the oval track into like the way they do things on the road course. And basically if the oval track guys don't want to race that way, they're just not going to race. But I just want to stress, they're still going to have like the modified tour and stuff like that there. That's not affected. It's just the regular racing series is doing, their regular season.
Is the tour considered one of the 6 races?
What's that?
3 of them.
Is
3 of them.
The tour,
3 of the 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do they have support divisions? I hope, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
But like Tim said, we've seen this coming. As soon as they fix that road course up and they're making more money off the road course than they are on the oval track, from a business standpoint, they got to go with the road course. That's what makes them the money.
Yeah, another thing they did there too is they don't want the concession stands themselves anymore. They have like other people that come in and do the concession stands.
Yeah.
The food service. Like they've kind of washed their hands of everything. They just want to show up and collect the money.
I kind of hate when they don't. I don't want it to be micromanaged, but when you hand off practically everything, that also leads to problems. So you got to find that balance, and I think there's got to be a way to cater to both to some extent.
I mean, it's no different. Jay Nichols died. Tucker sold that place as quick as he could. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The kids don't want to run the business. I mean, even in any other thing too. Some guys that owned a bakery since 1950. The kids can't wait for him to die to sell the business. Do you know what I mean?
I get it completely. it's a shame, and but even if you are going to sell it, uh, there should be something about respecting. I, I don't want to just go with the whole respect your elders garbage. Uh, Respecting their wishes, and hopefully finding someone who is interested and passionate about it.
But that's the thing; they don't want to sell it because they're running the road course. They're just phasing the oval track out in favor of the road course.
But that's what I'm saying. If they could find a compromise and then maybe hire one person or a couple people that are passionate about the oval, and then they handle the road course,
Yeah,
and
I can see
find a
yeah.
way to work or alternate things. Don't have too many conflicts but with
And,
scheduling. But
and so in my mind and in my heart, it's a catch-22 for me because in a way, I want to see the racers still support it so the track keeps oval track racing at Thompson Speedway. But on the other hand, I hope they don't support it and don't show up because if they do show up and race for nothing, now other racetracks are going to see this. Well, at Thompson, they race for $400, so we're only going to pay $400. So it's going to, you know what I'm saying? But if nobody shows up, then the other tracks in the area like Stafford and Star and Lee and Hudson and all them, they're like, oh, we better pay or the races aren't going to come. You know what I'm saying? So people still go race for, they're talking about paying like $400 to win a modified race. That's how bad the purse got cut.
yeah, and it's one of those things. I want to tread carefully because I don't want to bash the track, but I also disagree with the current structure that they've announced. So it's one of those things. How critical can we be before we then get attacked for bashing the track and then get blamed for it, going away completely? So do you go and support it and hope for the best and still voice your opinion by all means? Say this is not what we want. This isn't the right way to do it, but also don't flip them off and walk away and abandon it. It's tough. It's a really tough position to be in for a lot of people. I honestly, I'm shocked by it, and I don't know what the proper solution is, other than I would recommend finding a way to compromise and accept that people do appreciate and want to be involved with the asphalt, or I'm sorry, the oval end of things, and still find a way to work in the.
Well, that's a whole other thing. I don't think anybody goes there fan wise to watch
Well, Josh, I don't know. I
watch
know you
the
don't
road
know
course.
much about Thompson, but another thing you should know while we're talking about this, they race on Thursday night up there. So it's
How much road course races going on Thursday nights?
Yeah.
Well, what
It's
was
kind
it? Millville was. I remember early on in the whole progression of New Jersey Motorsports Park. So they had their two big road courses, and then they had the go-kart track, and it's a wonderful facility. I think they could have done a little bit better with topsoil and seating, but it's a great facility. And you're right next to an airport. You're otherwise in the middle of a bunch of woods, so you don't have too many problems with neighbors and stuff like that. So they have a really great setup. But they were talking about putting in an ATV park or an OHV park, which sounds awesome because you have nothing like that in New Jersey.
Yeah, we've talked about this once before. They called it the third phase. The third phase was going to be the cool stuff, like you said, an ATV park and an oval track.
A tri-oval.
A tri-oval. And the third phase never came into effect. And I thought the third phase should have been the first phase. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I don't want to. I'm not against road courses.
But Josh, that also proves what Thompson's doing. Millville did the road courses first because that's where the money's at.
Yeah. Well, you have all these rich French guys with expensive cars or whatever it is. But
not only not only the racer like us shows up to race their Corvette or their IROC or their Ferrari or whatever. I've always heard Pocono makes a ton of money with their road course, with car companies bringing cars there to test them.
Okay.
Like
I'm not
Chevy
against
will-
that. If it
Yeah.
works, if you have a business plan and you can, I'm not saying don't use the road course. I'm saying
right.
why don't you eventually get around to putting that tri-oval in? Imagine if we could have, one on Friday night and then Wall on Saturday nights and have a competing thing. How cool would it be to take the factory stock down there and run a tri-oval? I mean, you got to change the setups around a little bit, or maybe I don't know, figure something out.
Yeah.
But if you could work
Josh, I
together.
always- when they came out with the plans for Millville, a long time ago, I'm like, I can't wait for this third phase, and it just never came.
Yeah.
And it never happened. I'm still waiting for the third phase, so I'm sitting right there waiting for the third phase.
I know there's been no well, I haven't found any literature or any announcement on it, but man, like I would love to see that happen, and I don't want it to compete with
I
Wall.
wonder if they even still own the property down there where that third phase was supposed to happen.
I would imagine they probably still hung on to that. I know there was a bankruptcy, like the restructuring bankruptcy that went on a few
That's
years
what I'm
ago.
saying. I remember seeing plans for that. The tri-oval was like across the street or something in another part of the property.
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether financial problems if they sold that part of the property off.
I don't. It would be so awesome if you could. Where racing's at, where people are at, where humans are at, between social media, access to information, between videos and YouTube and stuff. I think that the tracks really need to work together. I mean, outside of being way too far apart. But I think that New Egypt and Bridgeport need to work together as dirt tracks. Something. All right. Well, it looks like I'm. Oh, that's what happened. All right. Well, I'm going to be going with the other audio recording at this point. I left my GoPro on too high of a setting and ran out of memory. Anyway, so that's it. I think there is a way to work together and cross promote and everything else. And if I love the idea of tri-track series and things like that. I don't know. I think there's a way to do it, and it's unfortunate that it hasn't happened.
Now, Josh, going back to Thompson racing on Thursday nights, the reason they ran on Thursday nights is because up there, Thompson ran on Thursday night, Stafford ran on Friday night, and Waterford ran on Saturday night. So they did work together, like you're saying.
Mhm.
But with Waterford being closed, I wonder if Thompson should have switched to Saturday nights and got off the Thursday night.
Waterford closed because of some
The owner got arrested.
indecent things with
political problems. Yeah. They're
Okay.
supposedly they're working on that again.
Supposedly they're supposed to be open back up. That's why a lot of people aren't panicking about Thompson, because they still have Stafford, and if Waterford opens up, and Seekonk ain't far from there either. And Seekonk put out a real aggressive schedule too.
Okay.
Josh, is this still going to be able to be on YouTube? Or you want to put memory in that thing, or?
No, it'll still go on YouTube. I'll just have to put that stupid graphic over it of the technical difficulties.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
The drunk
All right,
camera guy, which is me.
So we'll see what happens up at Thompson. Something we'll keep track of. But I have a feeling that no one's going to support it, and they're just going to be down to the nights where the modified tour is there.
Actually, Scott, if you want to take a break, and if after we wrap this up, before we get onto your main trip, I can reset this, and that way we can have video for your main
All
trip.
right, let's do that now because we're to my main trip. We'll switch the camera, take a quick break, switch the camera, and we'll do my main trip.
All right, excellent. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Sam Ballard from the RPM Podcast. Planning an event and looking for a great time? Go no further than RC2U Racing for all your portable family entertainment. RC2U turns any occasion into a competition. Check them out online at rc2uracing.com.
And we're back, and we're going to get ready to wrap things up. We just want to apologize. We had a little technical difficulty. Josh ran out of memory on the GoPro. We've been off a few weeks. We're a little rusty here. We'll have to admit this isn't the best show we've ever done, but we're doing a show. It's the middle of winter and something to do.
I feel like after every show we have to go. Is this the worst show we've done?
But then we listen back to it. It's always turned out pretty good. But so we did get a little bit of good news over the weekend. Fellow racer on the factory stock division, his father Tim O'Shea, through their O'Shea Auto Repair, sponsors the factory stock division. It's cool to see Brian O'Shea. He entered in some type of sponsorship competition, and he actually won it. I'm assuming it was like a Northeast region thing or a national thing, because it paid pretty good. It wasn't a local thing in New Jersey.
I think I saw like 340 something drivers entered.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
and it was just a random draw, Josh.
Mm-hmm. They did the girl did the random draw out of hand in a bucket of all the names, live on a Facebook Live or whatever, and it was so it's legit. And it was fun because they didn't hear from Brian right away, and they actually called him. And it's like, yeah, dude, you won. And he's like, you're lying. This is a prank. This is a prank. And she's like, no, you won. It's this. You got it. This is what you got. And he goes, I still think you're lying.
If they were looking for a big response from Brian O'Shea, they called the wrong person, because he's not very talkative to begin with. But yeah, he did win, and he won to the tune of something like $5,000 in sponsorship money for the 2000 season.
He won $5,000. He won 25 gallons of Nerf Sunoco fuel. He gets $100 gift cards from Natural Designed, and another one from Crazy Horse Racing, and a custom En Leroux photo jacket.
Oh wow!
So
congratulations, Brian, man! $5,000 in the factory stock division. That pretty much pays for a season over there.
I would say, is that a Martino motor right there?
Yeah, a rebuild anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, we start the season off with 6 tires. So that's $600, and then we're allowed a tire a week for 20 races. So that's 2,000. So that's we can spend about $2,600 in tires. So he's got his tire bill well paid for. So that's great. Great for Brian, man. I'm glad to see he won, and I'm glad to see that somebody at Wall Stadium won. I didn't even know anything about it, and for Brian to have the awareness of a sponsorship deal like this was going on, and for him to take the time and enter and everything like that, he might even forgot he entered and he wasn't paying attention to when they were pulling it, and maybe that's why he didn't thought maybe this girl was joking when she called and said he won. So. Good for Brian. I'm happy for him and his father, because I know his father spent a lot of money in the last few years building that race team and getting that race team up to where they're at now, and they're competing at a very high level in the factory stock division. So,
is there a name of this program, Josh?
It was just En Leroux photo. Nicola Rose is. I guess she's trying to get involved. I think Scott said maybe the PR end of things or whatever. So I don't think there was an official.
$5,000. That's a lot to get your name out there. I mean, where $5,000 came from, but hey, who cares where it came from? As long as it's going to Brian, and Brian can put all that money into his race car, he's gonna have a great season. That's awesome, Brian. Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, when she and here's the thing, I got to give this girl credit. When she pulled the name, she's like, oh, I know him. So like, I don't think she's, like you said, isn't she like more of a little bit farther north?
New England, yeah,
New England.
Stafford.
And she's like, oh, he races the 27 street stock, I think it is, at Wall. And all right, so fine, she got street stock instead of factory stock, but she knew the number, she knew Wall Stadium, like just from reading. I mean, she knows her racing. This girl's no joke.
She's raced.
Yeah. Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But that's really impressive, and so I just want to say this is serious. This is good for Wall. It's good for Brian. It's good for her. And so hopefully we'll see her at the track. I know Scott wants to get his picture with her. She's cute.
Girl. Well, congratulations, Brian. I'm happy for you and your father. So we're going to move on to my little adventure. Over the weekend, I decided to go up to Oxford Plains Speedway in Oxford, Maine. This is the second annual Reindeer Winter Enduro, they call it. I got a little bit of a late start. I decided to go to this race a couple weeks ago. I seen it advertised, and then I got that 41 car all ready to race at Turkey Derby, which we all know ended in one lap. So I got the car all repaired from Turkey Derby, and the car came out pretty good. I did a few more things to it. I put it, I fixed the rear that got broke and fixed the brakes and made a new rear bumper and rear Nerf bars and straightened the body out, put a tailpiece on it. The car came out pretty good. So, like I said, I only made one lap at Wall Stadium. The thing was still full of gas, so I wanted to race it again. So I started looking around for something I might be able to find to go race before Wall Stadium started. And I seen this Reindeer Enduro up in Oxford Plains. Then I started keep watching the weather. Well, it hadn't snowed up there. I was looking at snowfall totals in that area, and everything showed 0, 0, 0. I was looking at the weather, the 14-day forecast to the 7-day forecast. There was no snow in sight. It was saying on the race day on Saturday it was supposed to be 43 degrees. So I'm like, oh wow, this is not going to be a snow race. This is going to be a regular dry racetrack race. So 41 would have been perfect for that Enduro. So I worked all day that Thursday. I came home Thursday night and got everything loaded up. All intentions of taking the 41 car up there. Had everything all loaded up. Planned on waking up Friday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning like I do every weekday, and I could answer you off to work by 8, and then I go to work at 8 o'clock, and I was just going to, instead of going to work, I was going to drive up to Maine on 8 o'clock Friday morning, get up there around 5, 6 o'clock, spend the night up there, and race on Saturday and drive home Saturday. That was the plan. Had everything all loaded up, ready to go. Well, I wake up Friday morning, and on Oxford Plains' Facebook, and all the people that race up there on their Facebook, they're like, the race is on, it snowed, we got snow. And someone posted a picture of the track. They got like 7 or 8 inches of snow up there, and the track was covered in snow. So then I got thinking, like, well, do I even want to go up there now? I'm all planning for a dry track. And then I got thinking, I'm like, yeah, I'll go, but I'll take my white 7X dirt car. It runs great on the dirt. And, it's going to run great on the snow. And I had snow tires set up because when I first raced in the Enduros, we were allowed to run snow tires. So I had snow tires already on rims. I said, well, I'll just switch the cars. I'll unload the 41 and I'll put that back in the garage, and I'll start the 7X up and bring it around front. I'll load that up and I'll go race that. Well, the 7X has been sitting since October. I was supposed to race it at Grandview Speedway for their last Outlaw Enduro Series race. Well, it got rained out and they never rescheduled it. So the car's been literally sitting in my backyard under a tarp since mid-October. Never started, never nothing. I go out there, the car won't start. I put the jump box on it. Of course, the battery's dead. It's been sitting. It's been cold. Put the jump box on it. It fires right up. Get it running, no problem. I'm like, it's got an alternator on it. I said, I'll let it run a while. Let the battery charge up. So I let it run for about 20 minutes while I was unloading the other car and stuff like that. I shut the car off. It won't start again. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll change the battery. I changed the battery. Car starts right up, no problem. I said, I better check that alternator because that battery should have started if it was sitting there running for 20 minutes with the alternator. So, Josh, how the hillbilly way to check an alternator to see if it works or not?
Lick your finger?
Pee on it, maybe. I don't know. Now, the hillbilly way of checking to see if your alternator is running, as the car's running, you just loosen up the battery cable and take it off the battery. If the car stalls out, the alternator's not working. If the car keeps running, the car's running off the alternator, not the battery. So I have the car running. I pull the positive wire off the battery, and the car stalls right out. So I'm like, I got to go get an alternator for this thing. Uh-huh. So I take the alternator off. I run to the parts store. Does it have air conditioning? What year is it? Is it a 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder? After I already told them it's for a race car, just like an 87 Monte Carlo. Well, they had the alternator I had. It listed for like $44, but they didn't have it in stock. But they had the same exact one, but mine was a 60 amp alternator. They had a Corvette one there that was a 100 amp alternator, but all the pulley was the same, the wires were the same, the bolt pattern was the same, everything was the same except it was a 100 amp alternator instead of a 60 amp alternator. I said I'll take it. Unfortunately, now that it's for a Corvette, it was $88 and not $44 anymore. So I ran to the store. I picked up a new alternator. I switched the alternator. I put snow tires on it. Unfortunately, I didn't get out of here at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was like hoping, and now it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon before I get on the road to head to Maine.
How long is the drive?
It was 430 miles. It took me 8.5 hours to get up there. So I left here at 2 p.m. and I was there by 10:30.
Okay.
I was there by like 10:15, but I fueled the truck up. I passed a hotel I was staying at just so I can drive down the road a little bit further and see the racetrack. I went to see where it was and everything. So I got into the hotel about 10:30. I really got there about 10 though, and I messed around for a half hour before I checked into the hotel. It was for a Friday night. It was a good ride. I even talked to my brother quite a bit as I was driving. A lot of people still must have been on vacation from the holidays, and it wasn't. Everybody must not have been back to work in the city because it was like 3:30, and I was debating if I should go over to Tappan Zee or just try to go across to George Washington and go across the Cross Bronx. I decided to go right for it, and I went through the Cross Bronx at 3:30, and no traffic whatsoever. I hit zero traffic all the way up there, even all the way up 95. Even when it was 5 o'clock, there wasn't much traffic. So I drove straight up there. No problem.
There's no way.
No, I'm telling you, it really went smooth. Even on the way home too, because I drove home late. You know, the race got over at 3 o'clock, and I jumped in the truck. I was loaded up by 3:30. And I was heading back home. Even on Saturday, I drove straight home with no traffic. I came through the Cross Bronx again over to Washington Bridge, no problem whatsoever.
You get Facebook stirred up. You know, all kinds of people sharing your post on Facebook.
Yeah, so I didn't really mention it on Facebook. I really didn't tell anybody because I just never know. I hate being a person saying like a Monday, hey, I'm going to Maine racing, and then come Friday, you know, some guy calls me and he's got 10 junk cars he wants junked on Saturday, and then I don't decide to go. And so I usually don't tell people I'm going until I'm actually on the road. So that's what I did. When I knew I was definitely going and I was all loaded up and truck was warmed up and I was setting the GPS, I put it on Facebook. I put it on Facebook that I was going up there. You know, I took a picture of my GPS and, you know, it was 430 miles away. And then I put the little ad up that the track had on our Facebook where I was going. And man, it got a response. Like I couldn't believe there's another podcast called Black Flag Podcast. Within 2 minutes, they shared it on theirs. And they were getting a lot of people talking about me going up there. I had over 400 likes on my Facebook page of me going up there. Then it was pretty cool. Then as I was driving up there, Nancy was at work and she was reading the comments on that Black Flag Podcast Facebook page. And people were actually seeing me on the road and putting it in the comments. I just seen him on 95 in Connecticut. I just seen him on the Mass Pike. I just seen him on 290 on Worcester. It turned out like kind of like Where's Waldo type thing, or when people track Santa Claus on that, you know, on Christmas night, you know.
Scott, did I ever tell you my boss will text me and you know Dan Springfield?
Yeah.
Ran the 54 for a while.
Yes.
He'll text me, Riggleman sighting. Just out of nowhere.
Nancy gets it a lot from her girlfriends. Oh, here's your husband. Like people they see that red tow truck everywhere. It says Riggleman towing on the side of it. So Nancy gets that at work a lot too. Riggleman, I see your husband. You know. So yeah, it was pretty cool. That I got a lot of attention for driving up there, and so I get up there Friday night and. We were talking before how you had a friend that lived up in Maine and worked at the Canadian border. It wasn't that quite far up there, but it was pretty far in the Maine. When I got to the Maine border, you know, New Hampshire, Maine border on 95, it was still an hour and a half into Maine north. So it was pretty far in the Maine. You know, it was about halfway up the state of Maine in the middle. But it was on 95 the whole time, and I was keeping an eye on my fuel gauge. And I usually, when I knew I had to get off 95 on Route 26. So I'm usually when I get off 95 or I'll fuel up on 95 because you get on these, once you get off the main highway, you don't know what you're going to see. And as it's gets later and later, you never know what's going to be open. But I still had like between a half tank and a quarter tank when I got off 95, and I was only about 30 miles. I only had to do like 30 miles before I was in the town of Oxford. So I'm like, I'll be all right, on fuel. I didn't stop at the last fuel station. Sure enough, I started driving up that Route 26. The first fuel station I come to, it's closed,
Oh.
Then I hit this stretch of Route 26 where there was nothing. I mean, nothing. I'm like, oh man, I should have got fuel. And then I was wondering why there was nothing. And I was in the town of Poland, where Poland Spring is.
Okay.
So there's not a lot of stuff built up because Poland Spring Water owns all the property to protect the springs. The water.
Yeah.
So that's why there wasn't much in that area. And another cool thing was I passed the old Poland Spring Lodge. Something built in like the 40s or the 50s, and it was still open, like a hotel, had a little restaurant and stuff like that. So that was cool going through the town of Poland and where Poland Spring is. And then I got into Oxford, and when I got into Oxford, there was a, I think it was an Exxon. It was an Exxon gas station, and they were open, and they had diesel and everything. But I got there just in time. Like I said, I pulled into town like 10 o'clock, and they closed at 11. So thank God they were open, and I was able to fuel up and everything like that. And then, like I said, I drove by the track, and I took a picture of the sign saying I made it. And then everybody's like, oh, that's awesome. You're up here, blah, blah, blah. And I posted it on Facebook. So then I just go to a hotel. I take a shower, go to bed. Pit gates open at 9 a.m. I got up in the hotel like 7:30. They had like a little continental breakfast. I warmed the tow truck up, and I pulled right in the track at 9 a.m. And there was about 10 trucks and trailers in front of me with race cars on them, waiting in line for the gate to open. And when I pulled in, everybody came back. Oh my God, I can't believe you're here. This is so cool. You drove up to the race with us. And it was like Dale Earnhardt pulling in there, and the people that ran the track were nice. The girl that took my money was super nice, and everybody knew I was coming from New Jersey, So that was pretty cool. And then the race itself was a lot of fun. They advertise. How you have the event thing you can say if you're going or not on Facebook. Well, the event thing said 12 to 3. The event was from 12 to 3. So it started at 12. There was 3 races. There was an open competition rear-wheel drive race. There was they called it a front-wheel drive race and an all-wheel drive race. But if you had rear-wheel drive, you could race with the front-wheel drives and the all-wheel drives because naturally you're at a disadvantage because you're rear-wheel drive and front-wheel drive. But a front-wheel drive and an all-wheel drive couldn't race in the two-wheel drive race. You had to be a two-wheel drive race. But the two-wheel drive race was open competition. You could have bought a street stock, a late model, a modified, a dirt modified. You could have bought anything you wanted as long as it was rear-wheel drive. It was basically 2 guys that raced street stocks there had their street stocks there. I had my dirt enduro car there, and then there was a guy with a bone stock station wagon and a full-size Chevy station wagon, and
he did good.
All rear-wheel drive cars. So that was the first race. That was a 30 lapper, but they cut it to 20 laps because they knew it was going to take forever because we were the first ones out on the track, and there were 7 or 8 inches of snow on the track, and we were all rear-wheel drive. So they knew it wasn't going to be a very fast-paced race, and it wasn't. So that race started off, and I was riding around in 4th, and I had the car in 2nd gear like I normally would for a normal race of a track that size. And I was spinning my tires. Then after a while, I'm like, you know what? I wonder what happens if I put this thing in drive because, you're not by having a lot of RPMs, you're not gaining anything.
If you can get that into 3rd, you'll be kind of chugging.
I was falling back in the beginning of the race, and they were pulling away from me. And then when I had the brainstorm, we're putting it in drive, the car got better bite, and I started moving forward. So that I'm glad I thought about that during the race. And I never passed the car to win the race, but because of circumstances, I was able to win the race. The one car was a Camaro, and it had the the newer style, the Gen 3 Camaros, kind of like what Joe Maggio raced at Wall Stadium for a little
Okay.
while. And he had a big aftermarket nose piece on it, low to the ground, for when he races on dry asphalt.
Was he
And
snow
the thing was
plowing?
actually a snow plow, and the snow was going perfectly up his nose, over the hood, and covering his windshield. So about 5 laps, he couldn't see anything. His windshield was completely covered. And so I was able to pass him because he wasn't going very fast. He looked like Ace Ventura with his head sticking out of the side of the window trying to see where he was going. And then the station wagon caught up to the guy with the street stock there who was leading. And for some reason, the station wagon didn't try pass him. He tried wrecking him. Spun him out and put him into a snowbank. So when the guy did get out of the snowbank, but while he was doing the reverse forward, trying to spin the car around, get out of the snowbank, I passed him. And then I noticed that the station wagon was leading and I was second, and the station wagon started smoking. So I think what happened was he had a stock radiator in that car with the transmission cooler in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think when he wrecked the guy, he broke the radiator because I could smell transmission fluid, and his transmission lines were leaking. So he ended up conking out, and I passed him. And before I knew it, I was leading the race, and I was able to win that race.
How's bragging camp going?
So in Victory Lane, they gave out nice trophies and did the whole thing on the front straightaway. Well, I signed up for all 3 races. I figured, hey, I drove from Maine. It was $25 to enter each race. If I couldn't make it out to the next race, I just lost $25 and whatever. So I signed up for all 3 races. Well, after Victory Lane, my car won't start. The battery's dead. So they pushed me off the track, and they already had the other race lined up and ready to go, and they rolled them right out. And I was there by myself. When they pushed me into the pits, I was nowhere even close to my pit area where my truck and trailer were parked.
Yeah.
So about the time I walked all the way down to my truck, and I did bring a jumper pack with me and everything, and I went back and I put the jumper pack on, and the car did start, and I got it up to my truck, and I probably could have rushed and made it out for the next race, but I wanted to see what was wrong with it, why it wasn't starting. I mean, I literally just started with a jumper pack, so I don't know how long it was going to last in the race anyway. So I didn't make it out for the all-wheel drive, the front-wheel drive race, which was fine because there was still a lot of snow on the track, and they had about 54 cars start that race.
Wow.
And it turned into a crash fest. There was cars flipping over and T-boning each other, and there was like 3 flips in it. So while that race was going on, I did bring a spare battery with me. I charged another battery up here, and I brought it with me. I changed the battery out. It started right up. Then I go to start it again. It wouldn't start, and it ended up being that the one battery cable where the battery cable goes into the terminal, it was corroded there and got like real icy and wet right there. So I cleaned that off and put it all back together and had the new battery, and then the car kept starting, no problem. So I didn't make it out for the front wheel drive race, but I did race the all wheel drive race, and there was about 23 cars in that. I thought I had a shot at winning that one too, because now there was less snow on the track and there was more asphalt showing, because after 54 cars did 50 laps in the front wheel drive race, I'm like, I might be in good shape for this race too. But they did in the 2-wheel drive race, we did a rolling start, just like a normal race, On this one, they did a start from a dead stop, and I was on the outside. And when they lined me up on the front straightaway, the guy that was on the pole, they started him on the asphalt patch, and they put me up high where the snow was. So when they threw the green flag, I literally went nowhere. Like, I was just spinning my tires and everything. And so I fell way back, but I got to the asphalt part of the track, and I rode around for 50 laps, and I think I ended up 7th in that race, which was pretty good for being falling all the way back. And that's the thing too, in the all-wheel drive race, at the end of the day, it actually started like raining and sleet while we're out on the track, because they had a winter storm coming in, and it was supposed to start at 3:00, and it did. It's around 2:45, 2:30. It started like a mixed snow, like a real heavy wet snow started falling down. For having a storm coming in and the way the weather was, there was quite a few people in the grandstands. It was pretty cool.
Wow. So,
and for anybody, there's a link on the RPM podcast Facebook page for both these races. He's talking about.
Yeah, Tim, you shared the videos, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Both races.
it's. I was so jealous. I mean, not of the drive.
I know, Josh. I thought about you the whole time because you ran that one snow race up at Evergreen.
Two.
You loved it.
And now,
Two.
You did two of them up there.
now you're not the lead. You're not the highest finishing
Yeah, rub
driver
it
on
in.
RPM.
Yeah, but he wasn't anyway because on my memories, one of those snow races, the one that Paul Hartwig won, I finished third in that race. So I had a third on the snow race up at Evergreen.
And yeah, mine was third, and that was the second one, which I don't think you went to.
Yeah, I didn't go to the second one, no. And it was pretty cool at the drivers' meeting up there. They thanked everybody for the support of that race, and it's definitely something they want to keep going. That was the second annual one, and they definitely want to make it an annual one. But the one thing they did say at the drivers' meeting was they will only have that race if there's snow on the track. So they said next year, like say if, they say January 4th we're having a snow race and there's no snow on the track, they're not having it. They're going to wait till the next week. There's snow on the track, where Evergreen or even Wall when we had that Santa Claus race, it was like, if it was dry, great. It was dry. If it was snow, it was snow. But up there, they only want to do it if there's snow on the track. That's the attraction of that race. So,
yeah, I mean, that's what did it for me. I remember thinking I wanted to do it, and then when I saw the snow, I was like, "There's no way." And then they said, "Yeah, we're still on," and I just went for it and I had a blast, and that's why I did it the next time. It's different. It's not dirt. It's closer to dirt than asphalt. It's such a weird thing. And Scott, as you say, like as the snow turns to slush and then turns to just a wet asphalt track over time. I mean, with snow patches. I mean, it's got to be one of the most difficult and technical courses you could possibly run.
What's funny too? Everybody on Facebook's like, "Oh, are they going to plow the track a little bit at least?" They got to plow the track. Not only they didn't plow the track after the front wheel drive race, there was some asphalt showing, and before the all wheel drive race, they actually took the snowplow and pushed the snow back on the track. You know what I'm saying? Like from the outside groove where it all piled up, where the asphalt was showing, they pushed the snow back on the track.
Good.
And the one thing I told people up there, I said what we've done at our snow races in Pennsylvania and New Jersey was, I don't know if they did at the time you were there, Josh, but the one time I was there, they built snowmen in the corners and we ran them over the first few laps.
Oh, I think I have pictures somewhere, maybe on an old phone. I don't know, but at
So I told the guy that ran the racetrack up there, I said, you made one mistake today. He's like, "What's that?" I said, down by us when we have a snow race, we actually had the kids come out and make snowmen before the race, and then we run them over. He's like, "Oh, that's a great idea." He's like, "Next year before the race starts," because the race started at noon. He said maybe like at 11:45 we invite like 5 or 6 kids down from the grandstands to make snowmen in the corner. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that would be awesome.
But I got a really cool trophy for winning that race. They did do the top 3 trophies that we always talk about. We always say we like the idea of, except Tim don't like that idea. The top 3 in races should get trophies.
Ribbons.
Basically, we're going to be getting ribbons soon and no pay. But anyway, there was a real nice lady up there. I don't know her name was, but she was the lady we handed our entry forms into and paid, and we pulled the number of the hat. She's the one that did the lineups. Well, when I was in line getting ready to go out for the last race, she actually came over to my car and thanked me for driving the 8 hours to get up there, and she thanked me for coming, and she asked me if I was having a good time and if I was glad that I came. I said, "Yeah, I'm having a great time. I really love it." I said, she's like, "And congratulations on your win in the first race." I said, "Thank you, and I really appreciate the trophy you gave me. I've never got a trophy with a moose on the top of it." I thought it was a moose because we're in Maine.
A reindeer.
Yeah, she's like, "Scott, that's not a moose. That's a reindeer. This is the reindeer Enduro." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah." So it was a reindeer. So I got a trophy with a reindeer on the top. So that was pretty funny.
Where's that going to go on your shelves?
I already took the trophies out of the house this year and put them in the garage. This one's going to be right in my living room for a while.
Okay.
Another funny thing I even told my brother is my travel time got exaggerated from the time I got there until the time I left. When I first got there, everybody's like, "I can't believe you drove 6 hours." And then it was like, "I can't believe you drove 7 hours." And then, "I can't believe you drove 8 hours to get here." Then in Victory Lane, when they're interviewing them, like, "And you made the 10-hour trip to come up here." So my trip kept getting longer and longer as the story went. So But it was my GPS showed that it was 7.5 hours, but of course with stopping and get fuel and stuff like that, it turned into an 8.5 hour trip.
I wish I could have been up there. But again, without even doing the show, you didn't even give us a hint that you were even considering going up to that event. And then when I saw it, I was like, he's not going to Maine. I mean, I know he travels, but come on.
I mean, like I said, me and Nancy started talking about it like 2 weeks ago. And, I started watching, like I said, I watched a 14-day forecast. I was really watching the weather. I was seeing if I was going to have the money to go do it. I was going to see if I was, if I was too busy at work, I was not going to go because I'd stay in work. I had the money to go. The weather looked tolerable. To tell you the truth, it was probably colder that Saturday at Turkey Derby than it was up there. It was like 34, 35 degrees. That's why it was like a wet, rainy snow mix, and there was zero wind. There was no wind whatsoever. So it wasn't that cold up there at all. You know what I'm saying? So, I look, if I looked at weather and it was going to be 12 below zero, then I probably went. But when I saw it was going to be mid 30s, I'm like, oh, that's no different than what we were dealing with at Turkey Derby. I'm going to go,
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't really tell anybody. I hate being the person say, I'm going here and then don't go. So I usually don't tell people until I'm 100% sure that I'm going. And I literally drove up there by myself in the tow truck. Nobody went with me. I went totally by myself. I threw my stuff.
Hashtag no invite.
I thought about inviting Josh to see if you wanted to bring your camera and stuff up there.
I probably would have. What's up, Tim?
How was the facility? Was it nice or was it run down?
From what I could see, because it's funny you say that, Tim, because we've always heard about Oxford Plains Speedway. It was built in the 50s. It's been there forever. It's a 3/8 mile, slightly banked asphalt oval. But what makes it cool is it's super wide. It's really wide. There's no walls in the turn. So if you spin out or whatever and go off the track, there's plenty of runoff. You don't hit a wall or nothing like that. It's not really long straightaways. It's more wide sweeping turns. The grandstands, when I pulled into the parking lot, reminded me of Bridgeport. It looked just like when you pull into Bridgeport. Big parking lot, long parking lot, grass parking lot, and the grandstands were high like Bridgeport, and they had the whole top of the grandstands was suites, just like Bridgeport,
Oh, cool.
I mean, I knew all about that stuff. What I didn't know, and what really shocked me when I got there, is there's a drag strip there too. There's a big drag strip right behind the track. So they have both facilities there. They have an oval track and a drag strip, which I thought was pretty cool. Very big grandstands. I looked it up. It says that the place holds 14,000 people. It's the largest spectator venue in the state of Maine.
It's bigly. Well, very bigly.
Huge. Did you get a chance to go over the concession stand?
You know what, Tim? You did ask me that question, and I failed to report on that. Josh, you remember how we talked about, when we had Michael Hager on from Bethel Motor Speedway about having a winter race, and he was saying how our facilities are closed, and we're like, well, you just use porta-johns and food trucks,
Yeah, that's all you need.
Their bathrooms were closed, but they have plenty of porta-johns there, and when I went in the porta-johns, they were clean. But they did have their regular concession stand open, which I was surprised. I never got a chance to go over there and check the menu or anything, and it was kind of my fault because when we had the drivers meeting, we were standing right by the concession stand, and I could have easily checked. But like I said, I was there by myself, and I was doing everything myself, and I didn't have a chance to check the concession stands, but they were open. So they went with the route of like the concession stands being open, but the bathrooms not, and they used porta-johns.
And you got to thank the Osborne girl for doing all the coverage.
Josh, since I didn't invite you to go, there's a girl up in New England. She lives in New Hampshire, but she travels all over the place. She even came to Turkey Derby. Her name's Caitlin Osborne. She has Caitlin Osborne's racing videos and Caitlin Osborne's racing photos. She does a phenomenal job of
both on Facebook. They're on Facebook. You can
look her up on YouTube. It's Caitlin Osborne, Facebook and YouTube. She had 6 GoPros to put in people's cars, and she did put an in-car camera in my car. And she also films from the grandstands too, and she does a great job. So all the videos are up under her thing. My little rear-wheel drive open comp race, I checked earlier today. It's already up to like 670 views. So she does a good job. She does all types of racing. She even came down the Turkey Derby. She told me another big thing up there is people were coming over to me and saying, "Hey, next mid-January our ice racing starts up here. If you want to come back and race the ice racing series with us." I'm like, "Well, what's that?" That's when they race on frozen lakes, Josh. I said, "Well, I don't know if I can afford to come back up here because like every Saturday, as long as the ice is thick enough, they race on the lakes." She also belongs to that. That's like a ice racing clubs up that way. Like, and she's part of that club, and she films all those races too.
Actually, what was I was looking at? There's this Fence Line Films that was at Turkey Derby.
Yeah, I think that's a Riverhead guy, that Fence Line Films guy.
Okay.
But no, it's Caitlin Osborne. She's pretty easy to find on there. And like I said, we already shared it on our RPM podcast. So you can just click on it there. I didn't really have any good food stories for you, but I know me and Josh always kid about who has the better coffee down here. I like 7-Eleven because it's cheap, and Josh likes Wawa. I stopped at a Circle K up there. Circle K's were real popular up there, and I stopped at a Circle K up there, and there's a Circle K right by my house, and my Circle K doesn't have this. When I walked into the Circle K, I wanted to get a cup of coffee for the ride home, and I saw the big coffee machine over there, and it had like coffee beans in it. I'm like, how am I going to make my cup of coffee? I just wanted to pull the lever down and get coffee. You put your cup in it, and every cup of coffee they make with fresh ground beans. It's like a machine that does it.
Interesting.
And I tell you what, it was the best damn cup of coffee I've ever had in my life, man. It was really good. So I don't know if that's something that's going to work its way down here, because I just this morning I'm like, I must have the Circle K at my house. Maybe all the Circle Ks have this machine, and my Circle K doesn't.
It's probably made with Poland spring water, so that's probably why.
It might have been made with Poland spring water. It was right in Poland, so it was a good cup of coffee. It was pretty cool. That's about the only food story I had.
Jeez. Actually, while you're doing that, I was actually checking on my Turkey Derby videos. What? My Outlaw Stock video is doing really well.
If anybody's looking to do it next year, they always try to have it on the first. They said the first Saturday of January every year they're going to try to have it, or if there's no snow, every following Saturday until there's snow on the track, they'll have that event.
Do you know how many states you've won in?
Me and Nancy were talking about that today, and she's going to sit down and figure it out. She kind of wanted to do it like on a map with like pins on a map. That's another reason I wanted to go to Maine. I'm trying to race every state on at least the East Coast. You know what I'm saying? And Maine was one of the tracks that I haven't raced at. I've raced at New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, and all that stuff, but I never raced
Vermont.
Vermont, I haven't got to. Vermont's tricky. I've raced at Monadnock, which is pretty much Vermont because you're right on the New Hampshire Vermont. You actually drive in Vermont and then go into New Hampshire too. But no, I never raced in Vermont either because they only really have Thunder Road, and I never raced there. So yeah, I wanted to knock Maine off as a state I raced in. That's another reason I went to this race. Plus the Oxford Plains thing. I'd never been to Oxford Plains before, and I wanted to go. And for me to knock off Maine as a track I raced at, not only is a track I raced at, but now I got to win there too. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, off the top of my head, I mean, I've won in Connecticut. I won at Waterford and Thompson. I ran at Seekonk, Massachusetts. So I've won there. That's Massachusetts. Bethel, I've raced at, but didn't win. I don't think I have a win in New York then, but I've had races. I've raced in New York. I've raced at Bethel. I've raced at Chemung. Pennsylvania, I got wins at Big Diamond, Grandview, and Evergreen. And I even raced at Pocono on the 3/4 mile track. Of course, New Jersey, Bridgeport, Flemington, Wall Stadium. I've raced there.
We got to win in Langley. That's Virginia.
Yeah, I've won numerous tracks in Virginia. I mean, Southside Speedway, Langley, Franklin County Speedway. That's in Virginia. I've won there. I've won in North Carolina. I won at, it was called East Down Motor Speedway. Now it's called something else. And it's actually for sale now. The tracks just announced that they're not opening again in 2000.
Florida. You raced in Florida.
And won. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Speaking about street stock racing. You see that guy? The guy wrecked the street stock racing. Somebody climbed over the fence.
That was at that Dillon race. That was at the New Year's Eve bash. They said that
See
guy
that
just
guy?
totally wrecked that guy. And that guy's crew climbed over the fence and started beating the guy up.
Well, he's got passion. You got to give him that. What a mess. That's
All right, so that's my main story. I want to start wrapping up here. It's 10:40.
yeah.
I do want to leave on a little bit of a bad note while we're on a little bit of a hiatus. Stan Wall passed away. Stan Wall is Elliot Wall's father. Stan Wall raced back in the 70s and the 80s with his brother Alan. Stan's number was always number 14. He also owned his brother's car. They raced in the sportsman and modifieds divisions back then. His brother's number was 4A. 4A stand for Alan.
Okay.
Stanley ran the 14, and his brother always wanted to race. So Stanley built his brother a race car, and to surprise him, they numbered it 4A. And when Alan showed up at the house, said, "Oh, what's this car?" He's like, "That's for you." That's why his number's 4A for Alan. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was a good little story. Stanley's been battling health problems the last couple of years. He elected to go on hospice because he didn't feel like fighting it anymore, and he did pass away over the holidays. So rest in peace, Stan. You were always at the racetrack, and you were always a supporter. He also owned Harry Reid's Modifieds. He owned Bay Transmission. He really helped me get going. My towing business started because in the very beginning when I first started, he was pretty much my first big account. He's the one that got me onto the Howell Police towing and everything. I did a lot of work for Stanley and did a lot of towing for him. And he really coached me through my first couple of years of owning the towing business. So I always appreciated that. So rest in peace, Stanley.
He didn't like it when you sped through his driveway at the chicken coop. So he used to get mad and come out and yell at.
That
was
was
his dad.
Yeah, that was Lenny Wall. That was my grandfather. Yeah, he can only drive 5 miles an hour on the driveway there. Stanley didn't care what happened down there. That's why the place went to.
That was what, in Farmingdale?
Yeah, Freehold Border there. How Freehold Border.
Oh, okay. I think I've been there.
They had chicken coops, and a lot of people used to rent space there to keep their race cars. It's like a little racing complex. We always called it. It was pretty cool.
I picked up a Delta 88 from there.
Oh yeah. You were there. You were there on that property. Yeah.
Yep. It was quite a while ago. I remember actually another time I was going to a pool and I saw Wall on the mailbox and said, "Hang on a second." And then I saw freaking Hartrig's truck in there. He was mowing the back 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
So
that was a 14-acre farm. That was a pretty good sized piece of property they had over there.
Yeah. I would love to have that. If only it was in Waretown.
All right, guys. Well, you guys want to do what have we learned, or are we just wrapping up here?
I want to do what we learned.
All right, go ahead, Josh.
All right, Tim, you got anything?
I don't have anything what I learned, but I always have something to say. I wanted to tell all our conspiracy theory people that next week on History Channel, Josh, I was telling you about it was real. The government had an agency called Project Blue Book.
Yes.
About UFOs.
Yes.
Well, remember a couple of years ago when all the paperwork got released from whatever that's called?
Okay.
From all the paperwork. Well, Project Blue Book got released from now you can read it. Now it's common public knowledge or whatever.
All right.
So this TV show, it's its second running, is coming out. You have to watch that. It's very interesting.
You said that's next week on the History Channel?
Yes.
All right. I will. I gotta see if they have an app. I don't have cable.
Oh boy. As far as what did I learn? I learned anything. That was it. I'm glad to be back talking about racing.
Well, it was definitely good to be back. Scott, what did you learn?
I don't know. I'm pretty crazy for driving all the way up to Maine to race, but I also want to say one quick thing too. Over a little bit of a holiday break, I finally got the chance to watch that documentary, Senna.
Okay.
I watched that on Netflix. I highly recommend that. That was really, really good documentary about Senna and his whole racing career, and about him getting killed in an accident.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew it, but the theory was Do you know why the theory why he wrecked?
I thought it was like a suspension failure or something, and then he went off the track, and then a suspension part went through his helmet.
Yeah, but the reason he wrecked in a weird corner where you could really not lose control of the car. It was a high-speed corner anyway, and
Okay.
it was basically you can go through there wide open. They're saying the steering shaft broke. They're saying before the race he was complaining that the steering wheel was too far away, and they spliced a piece together real quick and welded it. And they're
Okay.
saying the weld broke, so the steering broke. But over there, they got a crazy thing. Like they kind of treat working on cars like working on aircraft, where you got to sign off on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if something breaks on the car, you're like legally, like you can go to jail for murder if something breaks.
There was something actually saw. There's a Formula One Forever page, and they had a post. There was, and this actually happened. There was a wreck between Michael Schumacher and, oh God, was it Villeneuve? And they say that Schumacher intentionally hit Villeneuve to try to keep him out of the points or whatever it was. And a fan actually submitted, I believe it was Germany, a legal complaint, and they had to investigate Schumacher for attempted murder.
Yeah, and basically this mechanic that welded this shaft together, the only thing that saved him was from going to jail was they couldn't prove if it happened before or after the accident, the shaft breaking.
Wow.
But you're all right. Like he did wreck hard. It was a hard wreck, but there was nothing wrong with him. He had no broken bones, nothing. But something came off the car and went through his helmet and killed him. If it would have been 6 inches to the left or 6 inches to the right, it would have never hit him. He would still been alive. He wasn't going to die from the impact of the wreck. He just died from the part coming off the car and going through his helmet.
It's still terrible.
Yeah, it was. He was only 34 years old.
That sucks.
But it's just something I want to share with you guys. Me and Nancy did try over the holidays to get to go see Ford versus Ferrari, but we went and saw Star Wars instead at the IMAX theater down in Atlantic City. Then she went to go see it the other day. I said, well, now we might as well just wait for it to come out on Netflix. It's almost out of the movie theater, you know what I'm saying? So I'm still waiting to see Ford versus Ferrari. But yeah, over the vacation, I watched Santa. That was on Netflix too.
Has Nancy gotten into that show on Netflix, You?
Oh yeah, we've been watching You.
Yeah, I only have like 4 episodes left.
Yeah,
But,
it's pretty good. We
yeah,
like it.
It's good. It's
A
weird.
little corny though. How do you get that big glass room all the way from where he lived all the way out to LA?
That's a good question. I think he had to build a new one or something, and he doesn't seem like the engineer type. But
like they never covered that. Like he went from his bookstore in New York or whatever to LA, a storage unit. Like how to get way out there, but it's cool show. I like it. It's funny.
Yeah, no, it's.
And I love how he's stalking people, but he's just literally just has a hat pulled down over his eyes, and like he walks right by the people and they don't recognize him.
That's like me trying to hide behind a bush and like acting like nobody can see me. Yeah.
All right, Josh, what have you learned? Let's wrap this up.
All right, today I learned that the podcast will never stop talking about food. I learned that Scott predicts Bubba will get a win in 2020. I learned that Scott messed around before he checked into the hotel. And I learned that it got longer as Scott's story went on.
All right, guys. This wasn't our best show, but it's a show. We're not hitting a home run the first show of the new year, but we haven't been on the last few weeks, and we just want to show that you guys that we're still around, and we'll be trying to do shows from here on out, especially with
we gotta start getting. A lot of people want us to get the older people on.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna reach out to a few old timers,
older hosts, or like old people.
Yeah, why not?
Retired race car drivers. We're gonna get some retired race car drivers here to tell their stories.
They're sick of hearing this millennial talk.
All right, guys, that wraps up episode 161 of the RPM podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Have a good night.
All right, good night, guys.
Good night, Scott. Thank you.